Hey guys, what's up? This is Morgan from Morgan Insights, and welcome back to the channel and happy Pluto retrograde season. In today's video, we are going to be breaking down the Pluto retrograde cycle for 2020. We're going to be talking about the major themes, the major attributes, the general messages for the collective, and etc. and etc. So just kicking off the video, Pluto retrograde season is going to start on April 25th, 2020, and Pluto is going to remain in its retrograde station until October 4th. So it's a typical 5-month Pluto retrograde transit. Pluto is one of those special outer planets who stations retrograde every year. Typically for the past couple of years in this decade, it has been occurring in the end of April, but as the planet continues to move along the equinox in terms of astrology, yada, 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 it may be pushed back in terms of the date a little bit every year. But typically it kind of falls within that same date range. So it's going to be the typical 5-month, 160-day Pluto retrograde transit. This year, Pluto retrograde transit is going to be occurring in Capricorn. So we're going to be staying in the 10th sign of the zodiac, really resonating with those energies of ambition and self-responsibility and accountability, and really looking at our material possessions in terms of security. What makes us feel secure? What makes us feel confident? What makes us feel worthy? What makes us feel like we have a voice, we are worthy of sharing our voice. We're dealing with authority, so feeling like we are really able to manifest and transmute and channel our power in a way that we would like to do so, especially with Saturn in Aquarius until June 1st or July 1st. I can't remember, I think it's July 1st. What really focusing on moving through limitation, exploring personal freedom, especially through our professional realms, but definitely about how we share and exchange our value, how we share our value with others, how we give from our center, our source of prosperity, our source of abundance, is continuing the same theme, this energetic theme that we've been seeing for the past year, really, with Pluto and Capricorn and Jupiter now in Capricorn, and even Saturn when it was in Capricorn. So with this stationing retrograde in the same sign, in the same degree, in the same vicinity, y'all, of the Pluto and Jupiter conjunction on April 4th, we are in that continuation of transcending and expanding through death. It's transcending and expanding through rebirth. So that same continuation of energy of feeling like you are stretching and shedding and spreading and focusing and harnessing your energy in one direction, it's what's really going to be key. But with Pluto with it being the planet of death and regeneration and rebirth and soul and karma and transformation, is all about your subconscious triggers. Anytime we're dealing with Pluto in astrology, we're dealing with that higher vibration, that higher symbolism of Mars. So where Mars is dealing with your willpower and how you behave and act out the impulses and the desires of the sun and the internal desires of the moon, Pluto is taking those behaviors to a next level. It's taking you deeper into the why you act the way you act, the triggers behind your behaviors. So if you were looking at your actions on like a time reel, if you could just watch yourself, watch your behaviors, watch what you do, Pluto is going to be like the documentation of the reason behind it. A good example of Pluto in terms of the subconscious mind would be for, let's say someone, you're in first grade and you got into a fight, and the reason why you got into a fight is because Timmy said that you smelled like boogers. So the trigger that caused you to get into the fight, which is your Mars reacting to the impulses of your Pluto, is that someone called you and told you that you smell like boogers, and you're very sensitive about your hygiene because of X, Y, and Z, because someone told you that hygiene is very important. So your parents really implemented through your Mercury and your moon that, you know, it's important for you to smell good. And so when someone says that you stink, oh no, that hurts your feelings and that triggers your beliefs and your values, so you get into a fight. Right? So Pluto, when we deal with Pluto being retrograde, we're really opening our awareness to our subconscious triggers, our why behind are wise. And with it occurring in Capricorn, we're really exploring our dynamics to power and to authority and to self-discipline and to responsibility. And a lot of this is going to come through our finances, through our governance, through our structures, through our society, through our public persona and image and reputation. How we feel in the public realms and our belief systems about what society is supposed to do and how government is supposed to operate and how we are supposed to allocate our resources and how we are supposed to express our power. All of those things are being brought to our awareness of why you're even doing it in the first place. So what you're experiencing through Pluto retrograde, the frustration that comes from it is it's forced, right? Pluto is not a nice planet. It's not just going to come in and just pat you on the butt. Pluto is the type of planet that is slow and slow until it just finally hits. And that's what we're seeing in our society right now, is that a lot of the things that are coming to our awareness have been transcending for a while now. We've just been in the dark. The entire pandemic, in terms of the coronavirus, it wasn't overnight, okay? The first outbreak was in November, right? It got bad in March. We had plenty of time. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to say anything about that. All I'm saying is that it wasn't overnight. And so the death that we're seeing, the expansion and the growth of this thing is not instant. It is slow. And so Pluto is asking you to look at the patterns in your life that have expanded over a slow period of time. It could have started when you were a child. You could have started biting your nails when you were a child out of a nervous habit. And when you got older, you started smoking cigarettes. And then when you got old enough, you started drinking beer. And now that you're drinking beer, you stop using alcohol as a method of coping, and now you've latched on to other people, and so now you're using love and sex, and you don't even know where it started. And it started when you were a child, and you bit your nails because you were nervous. That's how slow and dramatic and intense Pluto's effects are. And so this, with it being exalted in Capricorn, is really just asking us to pay attention to where it is now. And a lot of people are in deep shit. And they're in deep shit because it's been going on for a long time, and now it's just at its peak, and there is nowhere else for you to go. And we're moving into this age of Aquarius, and Saturn is in Aquarius. We're in this phase of innovation and improvement. So now we want to move forward. Now we want to progress. But Uranus is in Taurus, and Uranus is going to station retrograde in August at the same time that Pluto is still retrograde in Capricorn, and it's going to make you think about your values. Well, who taught you how to do this in the first place anyway? So everything that we're seeing right now is not new. Do not let anybody make you feel like the energy that we're moving to is new. It is old energy that we're moving. And I really, really encourage you to think about your parents and your grandparents and what were their patterns and what were their histories and how did they deal with money. You know, if your parents have never owned a home, why don't you think you own a home? Or if your parents are still struggling with debt, why do you think you have issues with debt? Or if your parents have an issue with staying in long committed positions in terms of employment or passions or hobbies or even relationships, marriages, they can't stay in a relationship. Why do you think you struggle with staying in a relationship? And it's not playing victimization. And that's going to be the struggle for a lot of people, but it's also going to be the power, the empowerment for a lot of people, because you're going to be able to really see how you are playing a major role in your own disruption, your own destruction, and how you can start to see how you will be the leader in your own rising. So Pluto is just really asking you to pay attention to what is expanding, what destructive habits and patterns are expanding in your life, and how has it outgrown, how has it grown, and what can you do now to really change how you feel about those triggers and reprogram those triggers. You have to really be able to reprogram the narrative. And being able to reprogram the narrative means that you can't be afraid to tell the story. And telling the story means that you have to be honest with yourself. You have to be honest about your fears. You cannot keep sugarcoating and telling yourself this pretty story because it makes you feel comfortable. This is about raw honesty. When it comes to someone who has the ability to look at things from a very realistic perspective, tell you like it is, with with the utmost sincerity and not be persuaded or wavered by your emotion is Capricorn. So of course this energy feels crass, and of course this energy feels like you are, you know what I'm saying, that there's blockages, or as much as you're trying to heal, as much as you're trying to grow, something just keeps coming up. You have to just persevere and pay attention to, if you keep running into the same blockage, why? What is the similarities? Be willing to be patient and sit with things. The answers, the solutions, the methods that will help you heal, that will help you move forward, and to, you know, do whatever it is that you need to do in this transit is really just going to have to come through patience. And you're going, again, to be willing to be honest with yourself and have those intense conversations and go back and look at the very beginning. You have to start at, where did this begin, and what made me start it in the first place, and what keeps you doing it every time. For instance, if you have a problem and you're struggling with smoking, what is your first thought before you smoke that cigarette? What's your first thought before you smoke the cigarette? What's the first thought while you're smoking the cigarette? And what's your first thought afterward? If you feel guilt, shame, or any emotion throughout that entire process, you need to stop it. Anytime you're feeling shame or any type of negative emotion, you need to pause in that moment and be like, wait, what is that? Why am I feeling bad about it? What is negative about what I'm doing? Because your perception is what's really being translated. So it doesn't mean that smoking is wrong. If you don't believe smoking is wrong, then you shouldn't feel shame about it. It's your choice. That's the beauty of power. That's the beauty of free will, is being able to choose and dictate what's wrong and right for you. But before you can start to create and manifest and move into this beautiful reality that Pluto is really bringing for us, right? You have to be willing to look at what's happening behind the scenes. You can't try to change things and you don't even know what's wrong. You cannot fix a broken pipe if you can't even find the leak. You're blind. You're patching blind. So this is a beautiful time to really slow down and to see what habits and areas of your life that are expanding outside of your control. And if you do have the ability to really bring it in and to be a leader in your own life, be an authority in your own life, and take responsibility for your impulses, take responsibility for your triggers, and not playing victim to the public or to the higher power or to the boss. You have to take responsibility of what attracted you to that person in the first place. Because there's something within your energy that resonated with that person's energy to even have the experience. If there was no sort of chemistry or synergy or synchronicity with that person, you wouldn't be repeating it. You have to just get to the bottom of it and say, why am I doing this over and over again? Why? And if you know why you're doing it, and then you keep doing it, well, then you're one of the most wisest fools I know, and I love you because you're making that choice. You can't keep playing victim, and you can't keep using the same excuses over and over and over again. Like, for instance, like, oh, my husband left me, or I was cheated on in the past, or whatever your narratives are, whatever your repeating stories are, whatever it is that you really utilize to rely on for your source of comfort, your source of sustenance, to make you feel like you're growing when you know you're not. Like, that has to be flushed out. Like, that sense of procrastination and self-destruction through how you speak to yourself, how you really relate to responsibility, those habits and those behaviors have to be brought to the surface. But you can't keep going and pretending like progress is happening when it's not. Like, those subconscious behaviors of like self-deception are not going to be tolerated during the season, especially when Mars moves into Aries, and Mars will start to station retrograde in Aries, and Mars will actually be in Aries from like August until January. So that's a very unusual transit system for Mars this year. So that in itself is one of the most weirdest and most important and influential aspects of 2020 anyways, is because Mars is going to be in Aries for such an extended time, and Mars is also going to be stationing retrograde in Aries. So pay attention to, again, those self habits. You have to take responsibility. You have to be accountable for your own actions, because that is really the theme for this year, is finding comfort, finding home within ourselves. Because if you think about Capricorn energy, the opposite energy of Capricorn, which is the public, is Cancer, which is the home. So anytime you're dealing with Capricorn energy, the balance act, the balancing act, the equilibrium, what's going to really bring you comfort and joy and help you feel that level of peace is going to be inviting in those other attributes of that polarity sign, and that's going to be Cancer. And we're seeing that with so much emphasis on the home, on the family. We are locked in the house with people that we need to heal with. So you are being forced to focus on those paradigms. You cannot, like, especially parent energy is so going to be highlighted with this, with Saturn in Aquarius, and you know, with those eclipse season with Capricorn and Cancer, there's a lot of parent-child dynamics being fleshed out right now in terms of conscious parenting in the past, and discipline and behaviors. And I know it's real because it's going on in my own home. So it's like finding that balance of freedom and limitation. And before we can even, again, try to establish that outside of ourselves, we have to really come to that place of center of spirit and matter, of prosperity and peace life. So I love you guys. Make sure if you're interested, you're checking out the Pluto Retrograde Guide for members and reading all of the beautiful descriptions below. Peace. I'm out. Bye.